There are 51 roles in Town of Salem 2, which is a lot, and each of them has some unique quality or fact about them. So here's a fun fact about every role in Town of Salem 2. No, I'm not counting mode exclusive roles. We'd be here all day if I had to talk about every kind of traitor anyway. Coroner has received the most buffs out of any role in Town of Salem 2, getting 4 since its debut in Alpha. Blood does not last 2 nights. This is a really common misconception, and it isn't true. This myth originated from a document that contained all the game's roles in Alpha, which is now out of date. Lookout is the only town role with an astral ability. Psychic is the only TI to use RNG. Seer debuted in Traders in Salem and is easily the most powerful investigative role there, and still holds that title in its Town of Salem 2 iteration. Sheriff's Win 5 Games achievement used to be called Marshal with 2 L's. This was a typo as the correct spelling is just with 1, though if we look past that obvious mistake, I have now decided that that means the sheriff's canon name is Marshal. Even after roles like Plaguebearer die, Spy will still see passive effects from these roles, meaning you can't leave persistent bugs on players. Checker has not been changed since its first debut in Town of Salem 1. Mechanically, it's identical. Deputy was the first new role revealed publicly in the Town of Salem 2 announcement trailer. Trickster originally looked like this. It was probably changed to avoid confusion with Jester. Despite having a fully completed silhouette in the game files that even shows up in the game's trailer, Veteran still uses the default silhouette. In the early access version of the game, the message vigilantes got on night 1 was you must wait a day to find your gun, instead of you must wait a day to fire your gun, and it sucks that they changed it because the implication that the vigilante is perfectly okay with shooting night 1, but can't just because they lost their gun is hilarious, but it had to be changed because, you can be controlled night 1 and that doesn't make sense if you don't have a gun. Jailor's silhouette was changed from this to this in an update, unsheathing their sword and losing their ponytail in the process. Mayor was the first Town of Salem 2 role card ever shown in the alpha. Monarch originated in Traders in Salem and was originally called King. This name was changed for gender neutrality reasons. Take note, Splatoon. This is how you change a name to be gender neutral without sounding stupid. Prosecutor's animation is reused from Traders in Salem. However, interestingly, the little red eyes and the O's are missing from the Town of Salem 2 version. A buff to Bodyguard to allow them to jump in front of a conjurer's meteor was considered, but so far hasn't been implemented. The only reason Cleric is allowed to visit a revealed mayor, unlike its Town of Salem 1 counterpart, is to cure insanity from Dreamweavers. The helmet on the Crusader silhouette blinks. Now you can't unsee it either. Trapper was cited as being one of the most difficult roles to code in Town of Salem 2, with it having to take a lot of role logic from Bodyguard and Lookout. Admirer exists in its current form because the developers wanted to find a way to implement Guardian Angel into the game without having it be a neutral and thus a kingmaker. That's why they're a townie with the 2 charges of a GA. Amnesiac used to have basic defense. It also used to publicly announce when they remembered a role like in Town of Salem 1. Yes, both these things were awful for the game. Tavern Keeper was originally called the Town Drunk, which is why the silhouette looks like that. Probably for the best that they changed it. There used to be a bug that would let a retributionist target themselves with a Town Protective, which was hilariously shown off when a friend of mine used it to win a game that Pipe uploaded to YouTube. Dreamweaver was originally intended to be a version of Hypnotist from Town of Salem 1 integrated into this game, however, it eventually got changed into the role that we have today. Enchanter has some really cute, unused alternate art. Look, it's a little unicorn! If you consider Illusionist a rework of Disguiser, it is the most reworked role in Town of Salem history, going through 4 separate versions. Retributionist used to be able to click on stone players and see exactly what their role was, fully countering Medusa. This was supposedly fixed before stone players were eventually changed to being unrevivable. There's a rarely seen alternate version of the Conjurer cinematic for when the Conjurer's target is invincible. Jinx will always get the Necronomicon last. Ritualist used to be called Sorcerer, and in early access was so broken, partially because it used to be able to target town investigatives, that it required a dedicated nerfing Ritualist document that we all voted for ideas to fix it on. Coven later had its role and ability icons changed in the full version of the game. Here are what the alternative ones look like. Hexmaster's ability was the first instance of developers embracing a community term within the game itself. Nowhere in Town of Salem 1 is Hexmaster's final attack referred to as a Hex Bomb. It's just something the community came up with. The developers, knowing that this was the name that we had assigned it, made it official in Town of Salem 2. Mechanically, Town of Salem 2 Witch is identical to Town of Salem 1 Coven Leader, and Town of Salem 2 Coven Leader was originally identical to Town of Salem 1 Godfather. Why'd they change the name? I don't know. When a Necromancer and Retributionist both try to use the same corpse, the person who gets to use it will be the one lower on the list. So, depending on your position, you might be able to figure out who's who. Poisoner is the only Coven utility role with the ability to directly kill someone. Potion Master's name is Nikki, which is the only role confirmed to have kept their original Town of Salem 1 name. After realizing that Voodoo Master was extremely underpowered through early access testing, the devs added its ability to block votes from silenced players when it originally didn't have that, taking it from the same power level as Coroner to an oh my god that's broken role. The Wildlings role icon is inspired by the design of Gollum from Lord of the Rings. Baker is the only horseman to receive 0 changes since the game's initial alpha debut. Berserker's silhouette is referred to as Juggernaut, and its belt has Jug inscribed on it, so we were probably originally going to get a dedicated neutral killing Juggernaut. At the end of Town of Salem 1's Ranked 5 season, players were given icons for their different ranks, which foreshadowed the neutral Apocalypse faction coming up in this game. Out of these, Pestilence was the only horseman to have 2 icons. Soul Collector was originally going to be named Shinigami, but the developers decided against it. Vigilante used to be bugged out on Doomsayers' list of options, and as a result, Doomsayers weren't able to kill them until the developers fixed it. Lore was supposed to be written about the Hangman and Executioner being brothers, however this hasn't happened yet. Jester actually uses the incorrect role icon. The hauntability icon and the role icon were accidentally swapped, and the error hasn't been corrected. You can see scrolls and achievements use the correct icon. The alpha update logs say that Pirate wasn't originally unique, and I don't remember that part, but that does not sound fun. Upon Arsonist's kill cinematic release, there was a bug where the entire game's shader would appear dark red. The serial killer kill cinematic was teased at the end of the Town of Salem 2 announcement trailer. This wasn't implemented until 2 months later, though. The idea for Shroud was originally mentioned 7 years ago on a developer Q&A on Twitch. The role's name would have been Shadow Walker. Werewolf had a bug in the role card where the werewolf would appear to be dancing instead of doing the idle animation, and it looks amazing.